Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and the GLOOMBLADE build for subtlety is apparently a thing. We always enjoy cheesy things, especially when it comes to rogues or any builds that allow you to literally one-shot players. And in this video, we're going to be doing just that. In my yesterday's video, I actually talked about what if your backstab could hit for 20k or so. And it looks like with this build, you're able to reach very similar numbers. So let's take a look at this cheesy build because the damage is really high. It's really easy to replicate it. All of you guys can do it too. You just need a set of conduits, maybe decent gear on your rogue, as well as a certain legendary to make this playstyle work. So let's go peep over the talents and the legendaries and everything you're going to need in order to make this playstyle work. So I'm having to re-record this part of the video where I go over the talents because apparently there's already videos on this, and there's a good chance if you watch any rogue content on YouTube, you probably would have seen it. So we're going to shorten this part, take a look at the talents. We are going to be playing GLOOMBLADE to make the GLOOMBLADE playstyle work. A lot of abilities are going to be augmenting the damage of GLOOMBLADE, which is how we're going to be getting some really nutty numbers. From there on, level 25, Night Stalker is a really good option. We're also going to be playing with Vigor in order to stack up a backstab damage increase from a conduit. Pray in the Wig for the 5% extra damage to a target when they're sending a stun. The conduit you want to run is going to be Perforated Veins. This is a conduit that I played around a lot on the alpha and the beta of Shadowlands, and I always wanted to make GLOOMBLADE somehow work for PvE. While I could never make it work in raids and dungeons, in PvP apparently it could work pretty well. Shadow Strike will increase the damage of your next backstab or GLOOMBLADE if talented by 30% depending on the item level of the conduit, stacking up to 6 times. So after 6 Shadow Strike, your next GLOOMBLADE is going to have quite a chunk of damage to it. Recently, a rogue friend of mine named Carl told me about Deeper Daggers and just how strong it is for sub-rogues, because Eviscerate and Black Powder will increase your shadow damage dealt by 13.6%. That means all shadow damage, even trinkets. So GLOOMBLADE being a ability that does pure shadow damage, your Eviscerate will actually make your GLOOMBLADE hit harder, which is going to be necessary for part of this damage modifier burst. Also, we'll have our good old friend the Rotten coming into play, which will buff the damage of your backstab or GLOOMBLADE by 50% on top of it. So already with Dance, all these other modifiers, the conduits, and the legendary, GLOOMBLADE will do a ton of damage, and it's a guaranteed crit with Symbols of Death, which will literally make it crit every single time. So all these modifiers put together, I had to try it in the battlegrounds, and these are going to be my attempts and some of our best moments trying this out in BGs as well as arenas. Let's see if we attack this rogue right now. Is it going to stack? Okay, now it's stacking. Weird. It wasn't stacking prior to this. Big backstab. Oh, 19k. That's a start. That's a start. We need just a little bit more combo points. Big backstab. Oh, okay. 21k is pretty good. That's a pretty good start. Let's build more. Big. Oh, okay. How hard did that hit just now? That hit for 20k. I'll take it. Let's just vanish. Vanish to get the hell out. That was a pretty decent backstab. I don't know what, or GLOOMBLADE. I don't know how much health like I had, but now I'm out of dances. And that's the biggest problem of this build, is now I have no dances and no way of really dealing with it. To explain this build a little bit better, the way that it works is, I guess in the opener, and really it's up to anybody to figure out how you're supposed to do this, but in the opener, a rogue would end up stacking up a bunch of Shadow Strikes to get the damage of those Perforated Veins, to make that GLOOMBLADE hit harder. So your opener as a rogue is really just to open up, press Shadow Dance, and start spamming Shadow Strike. This is why we're running Vigor for the actual energy regen increase, so we just have more energy to work with, but also steady energy regen, so we can get all those Shadow Strikes back to back. Stacking up the buff, and then try to pop all our cooldowns all at once. We want to make sure we have an Eviscerate, as well as a Cheap Shot as a modifier to make the enemies take even more damage from our abilities, into Symbols of Death to make sure that GLOOMBLADE does damage, and then hope for that one big pop to make an enemy kind of pop like a balloon. Big damn. Backstab. Oh, that was a lot of damage. Too bad he got Blessing of Protection as well as Anti-Magic Shell. This way you actually just can't do anything to him. He's just protected fully. Big backstab. Oh, 20k. Oh no, that did not just hit him. Was that overkill? It was a bit overkill actually. Yeah, it was 21,000. I think that was my best GLOOMBLADE hit so far. It probably can get a little bit better. But this is just, yeah, this is silly kind of burst. Ooh. I love this burst. This is actually so fun. It's really cheese, but it's really fun. Okay, ready? Okay, that'll do it. That'll do it. I kind of did that wrong, honestly. Not gonna lie. I kind of panicked there at the end. Big backstep. Oh my god. That was fun. Big backstep. Oh, here we go. Backstab. Here we go. That'll do it. So how cheesy is this burst? Is it too cheesy? Is that something that could potentially get nerfed? Or is this a playstyle that you might actually want to look into and potentially invest into? I don't think this one will get nerfed. I think some of the stuff that rogues were doing in season 1, where it was literally just like a shadow strike global, like 75% of your health was gone in just a split second, that was just a whole nother level of disgusting. This gives you a little bit of burst that's more intermediary, and I'm kind of okay with this. Honestly, I think for sub rogues, the fact that your crit Lego is still your best Lego, while some people may prefer it, I was really hoping for season 2 there was some of the differences with Legos and with some of the class tunings, class changes. We would hopefully see rogues playing different legendaries. You have assassinations that are playing the Doomblades Lego, which is awesome. Not everybody's playing just the crit Lego, but the Doomblade is actually pretty decent. Now, there's not a lot of outlaw rogues, but there is even diversity amongst those specs. Some players choosing to play the Deadshot build with the pistols as a focus. Others playing the Guile build, which is all about spamming Sinister Strikes until you can get your buffs to stack up to a 5% overall rogue buff, to a 10%, to an eventually red buff of 15%. Not as good as the original Bandit's Guile, but it's still pretty cool. But with Subtlety, we're still seeing rogues majority play the crit legendary. So I think it'll still be the focus for a lot of players in arenas, but if you wanted to play more like a standard, maybe a little bit of a setup, play style, a bit more of a burst, and you're a huge fan of that subtlety one-shot potential, it might not be an opener one-shot, but it still is, it's going to be a good portion of your target's health worth of damage. I mean, 20k on average crit of your Gloomblade, which can be stronger depending on composition. I've seen rogues run with Discipline Priest, where they'll use Archangel so they can get a 15% damage buff on top of it, or just play with a friend that's also playing Rogue and tricks or trade each other so that you can provide a 15% damage buff to them, they'll tricks or trade 50% damage buff to you, open up on target, spam out your Shadow Strikes into a big old Gloomblade combo. That could be really fun, but also really deadly. This was actually quite fun to play with. I've enjoyed the Rotten when you're using it outside of like this one-shot, really disgusting, literally one global, one ability, and the target is just dead on your screen. I do prefer it better where you actually have to play your class and use the abilities and have some sort of a setup and really work towards it, maintain stacks, maintain these buffs, and then combine everything together into just a massive hit. I think it's really cool, and it allows backstep style builds and even Gloomblade to actually be like somewhat viable. I really think it's cool interaction with Subtlety in particular, that shadow damage and the shadow damage increases. If Blizzard does anything forwards going with Subtlety rogues, I feel like really emphasize huge emphasis on that shadow damage aspect that they had in parts in BFA and they had in parts in Legion. I really like that as a component, and I kind of like how we can weave into other playstyles. So potentially this could be one of those things that changes the way that Subtlety rogue plays in the future. I think it'll be really cool going forward. But yeah, this was really fun to put together. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about this build. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.